Whenever Ngozi Okonjo Iweala steps into an international forum, you don't just see a Nigerian diplomat, you see a presence that carries weight, intellect, and purpose. From her stroll into WTO boardrooms to global economic summits, she walks in with quiet confidence and proceeds to shift the tone of the conversation. There is a deliberate power in her poise. She speaks not to please, but to lead. Each arrival says something: tailored suits, subtle confidence, a universal grace. When she appeared at major World Bank discussions, she moved through corridors with deliberate intent. Cameras capture her scanning the room, greeting world leaders, exchanging firm handshakes with finance ministers and central bank governors. Even in crowds of hundreds, there's something unmistakably her, a mix of depth and dignity that transcends nationality. At global economic summits, she doesn't just contribute to panels, she influences them. At one forum, she challenged the status quo, pulling attention back to debt sustainability in emerging economies. She didn't use jargon, she used conviction, and the room listened. Her voice rose with clarity when discussing developing countries, access to capital, demanding fairness with calm authority. She brought data, she brought context, and she brought conviction. Her visits also include memorable moments at multilateral institutions, walking into the WTO building in Geneva. She wasn't arriving as a delegate, she was arriving as a reformer. That day, her speech centered on equity, on giving voices to economies the world had long ignored. She spoke of inclusive trade, of small African exporters finally having a seat at the global table. Crises and opportunity often go hand in hand, but Ngozi stood firmly on the side of possibility. When world leaders convene for climate finance discussions, she talks not in platitudes but in practicality. She doesn't frame the narrative, she reframes it. She brings stories of villages in sub-Saharan Africa, of solar electrification and digital inclusion, of women entrepreneurs whose businesses would remain invisible without access to international funding. She underscores the human side of policy. Even outside formal panels, her moments abroad speak volumes. At receptions in international capitals, she mingles easily, but she's always intentional. And not here, a few shared words there. She listens more than she talks, and when she speaks, she brings clarity. You can sense the respect in the room. Diplomats, ministers, and journalists show clear deference, not because of her position but because of what she stands for. But these visits aren't just about speeches or recognition. They often end with real-world outcomes. You'll find visuals of agreements being signed, handshakes sealing new funding lines for health systems, photo ops marking multi-million-dollar grants for African startups, declarations of support for vaccine equity. These are not just symbolic gestures. Their results, tangible commitments born from global conversations she helped steer. Back home, footage shows her landing in Lagos or Abuja, touching down after long journeys meant for impact, not applause. There's often a brief gate-side moment, file folder in hand, acknowledging waiting aides or delegation members, a brief exchange of words. Then off she goes to boardrooms, strategies, or ministries. No fanfare, just steady resolve. Her international outings consistently bring attention to systemic challenges, debt burden, barriers to trade, climate injustice, and digital inequities. And she frames solutions, pointing to structural reforms and partnerships. But each appearance also reframes Nigeria's global image, not as a struggling state, but as a leader capable of standing alongside the world's best. Even years after her stints at the World Bank or as finance minister, her global presence still signals leadership. Whether heading multilateral missions or lending her clarity to reform dialogues, Ngozi's visits remain moments of quiet authority in a chaotic world. She shows the world the power of thought leadership anchored in experience, evidence, and empathy. She doesn't merely attend, she sets benchmarks, and in each international courtroom, summit hall, or diplomatic reception, she leaves behind a renewed sense of possibility for Nigeria, Africa, and the global South.